What's going on, everybody? Welcome to IndieQuest, the celebration of the indie and obscure. I'm one of your hosts today, Josh, and I'm joined by one of my awesome co-hosts, Steve. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, I just got my child to eat lentil pasta for the first time, and he did not reject it. I think the Alfredo sauce did a lot of the heavy lifting, but still, a victory. That's something that's not a quesadilla or yogurt, so I'll take that. And otherwise, yeah, we'll get into why in a second here, but we're recording this earlier in the weekend than we normally do, so I'm a little punchier, all right? I'm not, vibing at the end of the weekend. I got that early weekend energy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm also joined by my other co-host here, the captain himself, Captain Drachma. How are you, Seth?
Doing good. Steve's kid had lentil pasta before I ever did. So,
oh, man. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to put that on my bucket list. But I actually had the day off today, so that was nice. Did a little gaming and some housework and preparing for some more of it because baseball season is here for my stepson. So I'll be pretty busy coming up. But it was nice. It was nice to take a day off.
Well, let's introduce our guest. We have a guest this episode from Tales from the Backlog podcast. Dave Jackson, how are you? Excited to be on the show? We're excited to have you here. So how are you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super pumped to be here. Longtime listener of the show and just been waiting for the call. So I appreciate it. I'm really excited to chat some indie games with y'all.
And we'll give you time to do plugs at the end of the show, of course, but right up front, for folks that have never listened to Tales from the Backlog, give them your elevator pitch.
Yeah, so it's like IndieQuest, kind of diving into the games that we play, but it is one game per episode in, some would say, excruciating detail. So most episodes are 2.5 hours long. And the thing that I guess I want people to know about the show, if you want to go look through the episodes, is every episode's no spoiler for a while. So you can listen to any of them. And you don't have to worry about being spoiled. We very clearly announce when spoilers start. And usually you get about an hour and a half of no spoiler conversation. And then afterwards, we go full spoiler. So I do that because I want anyone to be able to listen to any episode of my show, regardless of their experience with that game.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll say anyone that's never listened to the show before, it's one of my go-tos. Very, very good podcast. Highly recommend people go check it out. There'll, of course, be links in the show notes and stuff like that. But if you like the vibe on IndieQuest, you'll appreciate it over there. And there's somewhat of an overlap, I think, in tastes. I wouldn't strictly call your show an indie show by any means, but I think there's a little bit of an indie bent, maybe just from your preferences.
Yeah, I would say it's a good mix of AAA and indie, but I definitely have a strong love for indie games, and I don't shy away from, playing something that I know most people haven't played, because if it's interesting enough that I want to talk about it, that's why I have the show in the first place. So no reason to limit myself there.
I mean, we weren't that smart. We limited ourselves, but that's why there's other good shows out there.
Steve, you were on my show for that episode about Void Stranger, which is one of those games that there's a very cult following for that game, but it's like a small, very dedicated following, and then a bunch of people who probably have never heard of that game before. Maybe the astute IndieQuest listeners might have heard of Void Stranger because it, got some attention here and there, but that's the kind of thing where it's that game's super interesting. It's fun to talk about. We had a good time talking about it. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to, make sure that I don't want to have those games fly under the radar just because I think that more people might click on a more popular game,
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And that's a perfect type of game, I think, for your show because that spoiler wall does a lot of heavy lifting there. So
in that episode, it did, yeah.
I think about that game more than you'd think, and mostly it's because I'm listening to Void Symphony more often than you might think. But in general, that game crosses my brain. Got to be weekly at least. It's an interesting one.
Yep, it worms its way in there, and it's not coming out.
True.
That does lead me to a couple questions for you, Dave, based on just that little bit of banter. Have you ever, it's not exactly a sister show, not on our network, but have you ever listened to The Cartridge Club?
I have not.
Okay. So it's a show. It's all about, I feel like it's pretty similar to your show in that they focus on a single game or sometimes series, but they have like a community that all plays the game together, and then they bring different community members on. So I think the three of us have all been on that at some point, but that reminded me of that. Also, have you ever played Zero Ranger?
I have not. That's on my list to play now that I've played Void Stranger and I know about the tie-ins, and also my shmup junkie friends vouch for that game too. So I bought it. It's sitting there. It's just waiting for me to play it.
That was a recent bring of mine to IndieQuest this year. So
yeah, I saw
highly
it on
recommend.
the log. Yeah,
it's very good. Yeah, it's very good.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. The thing I like about your show is when I'm playing a game, especially a long game, I think I haven't mentioned to you in DMs that I listened to the beginning part of Metaphor Refantasio, your episode, and then right when I hit the spoiler wall, I'm like, okay, this just sits in the queue until I figure it out, finish up that game, And then when I did, it was just nice to hear you guys' thoughts about all the story details and all the characters in that game, So,
yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the way I do the show. I can't get upset if I see the retention drop off a cliff right at the spoiler wall, because the show's functioning as intended. If that's when people stop listening, and if they come back because they played the game, I hope the spoiler discussion's worth it too.
Mm-hmm.
Heck yeah.
All right, one thing I like to do to each new guest that comes on the show is ask the big question.
Ooh,
and
okay.
The big question is, what's your favorite indie game?
Oh, dude, can there be too big a question? I think that's too big a question.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah. Well, it just jumped off the top of my head. This was my game of the year for 2024. And I don't know if I stack everything up, if it would be my definitive favorite indie game, but it's my favorite of the last several years. 1000 Times Resist is just one of the best media experiences I've ever had. I mean, it kind of defies what you might expect out of a game, but I think it utilizes that interactive quality that games have to let us live in stories a little bit closer than, at least for me, closer than a movie or a TV show, or it is closer to reading a book, and that kind of letting your imagination go and theory crafting about what's going on and stuff like that. I really love that game. Easy 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 experience for me. So I don't know if I listed all the indie games I've ever played, if it was my absolute favorite, but if I build a pantheon, it's going in there before anything else, maybe. So yeah, I'll give that as my answer.
Awesome. I love that game too. It's amazing. That was my favorite indie last year too. It rocked my socks off, I'll say.
Yeah, it was my favorite game that I played, and I got Elden Ring DLC last year, and I'm a huge Elden Ring fan, and even Elden Ring couldn't compare with 1000 Times Resist.
There's not very many games out there. Well, I'll say when we bring games to the show, usually none of us know what anybody's going to bring, and it's a little bit of a surprise on air. But every now and again, there's a game like 1000 Times Resist where multiple of us play it, and it's very clear it's definitely going to be on the main quest, and we're kind of doing the Spider-Man meme, pointing at each other are you going to bring it? Am I going to? Who gets to bring it? It's kind of a race to see whose name is attached to it on the quest log, and that was definitely one.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, speaking of the quest log, what is the quest log? The quest log is an ever-growing list of curated indie games that we think everyone should play. And the way we break it down is two sections. The main quest, which is a game that's an easy recommendation to anybody, an incredible experience, or a quote-unquote certified banger. It's a game that, it's a game like 1000 Times Resist. You need to play this game. Or it's a side quest, which is still a recommended game, but maybe there's a couple of caveats, or maybe it's one that's a little bit niche. Maybe only a select audience will enjoy it. Or maybe it's that 8 out of 10 and not quite a 10 out of 10, but still an awesome game, but you should play it. But yeah, that's the breakdown there. So who wants to go first today? We usually like to have the guest kind of sandwiched in the middle somewhere. So which one of the main hosts wants to go today first?
I'll lead us off.
Whoa,
sounds good.
for a few reasons. I feel like it's got to be either me or you, Josh, because of the caveats that Steve mentioned at the top off air, I believe. But also mine, I think, is a good little appetizer to the entree that I assume one of you fine fellows will be bringing shortly. So, all right, I played a game, and actually I played 2 games. I had an intention of bringing a different game to IndieQuest today, and I do feel that game would have belonged on the quest log, but I wasn't sure how to maneuver around some of the things that were going on with it. I don't know how many people I could truly recommend it to, even as a side quest. So I brought a different game. And it's actually a game that's been fairly popular. It released this year. It's called Spilled. Have you guys heard of Spilled?
Is this the like oil slick cleanup game?
Yes.
Yeah. I saw this a bunch on like on Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's a game where you float around in a boat and clean stuff up that shouldn't be there. But it released this year, March 26, 2025, developed by, I believe it's pronounced Lente or Lent, but it's Lente. And the platform is only on PC right now, but I feel like it's doing a little bit of a disservice to not at least have this on Switch or Switch 2, right? It just feels like it would be at home on those systems, on a handheld system of some kind. So like I was kind of mentioning at the top there, overview, it is a top-down 2D water cleanup adventure. So you are driving a boat around what I would describe as a lagoon. I don't know. It's not a river. It's not really a lake, and it's not an ocean, certainly, but it's like various interconnected watery areas that you can float this boat to after you've done enough cleaning in the section that you're currently on, right? So there are 8 different sections. Once you clean up one completely, or not, it doesn't have to be completely, but mostly, right? Then you kind of get a check mark, or, you reach a checkpoint and it tells you, oh, you can go through on to the next one now. I imagine that the majority of people are just going to clean everything in every single area because that's kind of the point of this game. But you don't have to, right? You can get to a certain point and move on. So what does this game look like? I feel like one of its strongest suits is the way it presents itself. It is absolutely gorgeous. It is one of the best looking pixel art games that I have played recently. Honestly, I liken it to like a Sea of Stars, which is insane because Sea of Stars' budget is so much higher than this game. And I do truly feel like Sea of Stars has a lot more going on, and you can tell there's a lot more put into that game than this one. But just the brightness, the colorful. Actually, another touch point that people would probably have looked up recently is Naiad, which is a game that Steve brought recently. It reminds me of that as well, right? Very bright, very colorful. I always love when pixel art games make their water look just so good. And this is one of those good-looking 2D pixel art water games. If anybody out there understands what I'm saying when it comes to that, I can imagine you should, right? It's just the way that water can look these days in 2025 versus how they look back on Super Nintendo or even PlayStation. It's just leagues better.
I think a big part of what makes it look so good, they let you see through the water, man. I like seeing what's at the bottom of the lake.
Yeah. I was just looking at that. Obviously, if you yourself were just up in a helicopter looking down at it, you from the camera view that you have in the game, you wouldn't be able to see that stuff. But just putting that little detail down there. And I was following this game's development. Like I said, I've been seeing it on Twitter and stuff for a long time. So that feels like a pretty recent addition to it. I don't remember always seeing that. But yeah, it looks really cool.
I think a very, very unique and cool touch to that point is as you clean up. So once you enter an area, the water is extremely murky, very brown, and obviously you can see litter and oil slick on top. But as you progress through that area, cleaning things up, it slowly gets cleaner, and you can start to see better through it. It becomes more translucent, and you start to be able to see the sea life below. And so it's a very good payoff for I wouldn't say your hard work, but your imaginative hard work, right? If you were actually in the game and driving the boat. It's not a very difficult game. We'll get to some of that in gameplay, but it feels good to clean up, makes you want to clean up as much as possible so you can see all the fish and the turtles, and later on you can actually see whales and things like that. Like it's very cool, unique visual experience in that way. Usually what goes along with good graphics is good music, and this game has that in spades as well. A lot of like ambient noise. You can hear the animals under the water a little bit, like dolphin noises, but you can also hear birds, and it's just, that's always playing in the background. But then sometimes it's raining, or sometimes it's snowing, or sometimes it's windy, and a lot of those sounds come through as well. But the music itself is also incredible. Very instrumental, very calm and chill, but then also has a lot of that like retro video game vibe. I don't know exactly how to call it, but you think I'm listening to a Super Nintendo soundtrack, right? And this kind of delivers that in certain ways with certain parts of its melodies. But then a lot of the music is just really, really good, very modern. Gives me like Minecraft vibes. I feel like we do that comparison a lot, but when I think chill out music, or music I want to listen to while I'm working, or anybody out there studying, this is the type of music you try to put on. This is the type of music you try to find. It's always chill. It's always really good, pleasant to the ear. The story, there really is no story. And honestly, I don't think there is any written or spoken dialogue at all in this game. It doesn't even tell you what to do. I suppose if you buy this game and watch the minute trailer, you understand what you're supposed to be doing, so it doesn't really need to tell you. Or even if you hadn't, you kind of figure out how to move, and then, oh, I need to clean up this stuff, and then I move on, right? So in general, I think the premise, or what it's trying to convey through gameplay, is you are this in this boat, this captain of this boat, I suppose, and your job is to clean up the water. People have littered. There have been oil spills. There have been all sorts of stuff that have dumped into the water, and it is your job to actually go out there and clean it up with the big scooper container. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's like a massive thing on the front of this boat that can actually get bigger, and we'll talk a little bit more of that later, that allows you to actually run over the litter and the oil and actually scoops it all up into this container on the back of the boat. So pretty cool in that way. Before we get to gameplay, this is usually where we pause. Do you guys have any questions or any thoughts about anything you've seen or anything I've said so far?
There's a turtle on top of one of these oil slicks. Are the turtles okay, man? Are they getting hurt?
So, since that question's been asked, you can actually collect 2 animals in each area, and they just chill there until you actually run them over. They're just collectibles. That's all they are. So very basic in that way, but it kind of feels good to see them. It's like, oh, I got another one, you know? But that's all they do. You run over them, and then, oh, there's your friend. They all have like unique names too. It's not like Turtle. You collected Turtle. No, it's like, I don't know, Freddy the Turtle or something, right? It doesn't matter. It just looks like a generic sprite turtle, but it is what it is, right? So that's just one of the mechanics, one of the extra mechanics, something you don't have to do. It's purely an achievement. But in general, if you want to clean up everything, generally all animals are plopped right on top of an oil slick that you have to clean up anyway. So you're gonna get them by proxy, basically.
Obviously, with a game like this where you're cleaning up oil spills, like it's obviously born out of like a environmentalist like love for nature and things like that. Does the story go, or like you said, there's no like dialogue or something, but does it go deeper than that, or is it just kind of like you're just cleaning up, making these areas pretty and clean again?
It really doesn't go deep at all. The only way that you can gather what you're doing is the fact that you can tell you're cleaning everything by how the water gets cleaner. And then also there's like recycling signs on the boats that you're taking the waste to. So yeah, to your point, it is very clearly focused on like environmentalism, making sure hey, you play this game, look how pretty this game can look once you clean it up. Maybe we shouldn't be dumping stuff into our waterways. That would probably be a good idea, right? But it doesn't tell you any of that. I mean, it's just, you can tell that's being conveyed. The developers had an idea for a game, and they're like, well, we also really love our planet, so let's tie that to this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember like part of the story of the game's development is it's a solo developer who lives on a boat. So,
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you can easily see like how this idea may have gotten into their head about like, this is the type of game that I want to make. I mean, they probably just look out their window and see, trash in the water and stuff like that. So not that it has to go super deep or anything like that. I was just curious if it does.
Yeah, no, it's very surface level, pun intended.
Yeah. On the actual Steam page, there's a little thing from her. She says her name's Lenti. She started working on Spilled at the end of 2022. This is her first commercial release. She paused school, bought a small boat to live on, which lowered her cost of living, and then she focused on Spilled, and then ran a successful Kickstarter to get the game funded and get her dreams going. So it's just a really cool success story, if you think about it. So
Yeah.
It's got a couple thousand Steam reviews.
Yes.
It's got 94% positive, 95% positive ratings on Steam. So it seems to be doing well for a solo developed, very small scale project.
yeah.
I was
And,
surprised to see that many. That's like half as
Yeah.
many as 1,000 Times Resist, which we were talking about at the top. So not that it doesn't deserve it by any stretch. It's just I was surprised to see that number relative to the amount of people I guess I've seen talking about the game. So it seems to have found its audience somewhere outside of my field of vision, which is cool.
Yeah, I think it was on like, I think Wholesome Games may have featured it. And so it definitely like made its rounds on social media. So good on, again, a solo developer for figuring out ways to market the game.
Yeah.
I think barrier to entry helps a lot, right? 1,000 Times Resist is likened more to a AAA. I mean, it's an indie, but it's likened more to a AAA type game. It's more cost prohibitive for some people, whereas this game, literally, there's barely any barrier at all. It's $6, and it literally tells you that it's going to take you an hour, maybe an hour and a half to beat. So anybody that has a passing interest in playing a video game could play Spilled. Honestly, it's fairly easy and makes you feel good. Makes you feel good to play it. So speaking of ease, the only thing that isn't the easiest compared to a lot of its contemporaries, I suppose, are the controls. And it's not that they're bad or hard. It just takes a little bit of getting used to if you haven't played a game like this before. I would call it's kind of floaty. It feels like you're driving a boat, captaining a boat, right? Like, I don't know how else to say it, but anybody out there that's ever actually driven a boat, those of us from Minnesota where you can't walk down the street without tripping over one.
You know how I do.
Boats don't have traction, right? So they're in water, other than any friction that you're getting against the water as you're driving it. So a boat can it's going to float, right? And I only know some of these things because of how much I spent on Lake Erie a couple of years ago with my brother-in-law and father-in-law. But it takes some getting used to where and it's not this hard and Spilled, but it is kind of realistic in this way. People who aren't used to driving a watercraft don't understand that when you go to turn or if you throttle down, the boat's not just going to stop. It doesn't have brakes. Like, it doesn't work like that. So that's how the boat feels a little bit in Spilled as well. Like, when you're trying to turn, it's kind of floaty. Like, obviously it's floaty. But so it feels strange. If anybody out there's ever played like one of those shooters where there's like zero gravity and you're kind of once you pick a direction, you kind of continue to float that direction. It's not quite that bad. You do stop after a little bit in this game, but takes some getting used to. Right trigger is acceleration, at least on the Xbox controller, and left trigger is reverse. So there's very little time where you feel like, I'm stuck, or I can't figure out how to get out of here because this is these controls are weird, but like I said, it just takes there's a little bit there that you have to kind of get across.
Did you? I feel it's so hard to not use like water pun words for this.
I know,
but did you get into kind of a flow state with the controls? Because sometimes those types of controls with like some momentum to them, you kind of get used to like how turning works, and you can really sort of like you're like almost controlling a little bit ahead of what you anticipate doing in a way. And in a game like this, which seems like it's kind of a mellow out sort of zen, clean up all the little dots experience, that might actually be additive in some ways.
Yeah. I feel like if it was a lot easier than it is, it would be a lot more boring. You know, like just that little bit of slippery control helps to give this game that much charm, right? It also does the thing, it's a 2D top-down game, and when I turn right, when I click over right on the joystick, and I'm going straight compared to what my orientation that I'm looking at, the boat's going to turn right, but I have to continue to hold that even when the boat is facing me, right? So it does that RC Pro-Am thing or whatever, where you have to constantly think about, when the boat is coming back towards myself or going down on the screen, controls are technically reversed, right? Because, we talked about how I was getting into the whole RC hobby, right? The other couple episodes ago with the planes, it's the same thing, right? If the plane's coming back at you, all the controls are reversed compared to how they normally are. So took a little bit of getting used to, but overall it was hardly a thing. It was like 2 minutes. I'm like, okay, I'll get there. So the main objective of this game is cleaning up the oil. Eventually, you start to see like bottles or cans or very small Sprite litter in the water. And you also want to kind of collect those with your front collector thing and push them into the big boat that collects all the litter and sewage and whatever, right? And then eventually, once you push that all in there, that boat starts to give you money, right? And you end up utilizing that money to then go and buy upgrades. You can buy a speed upgrade. You can make the collector on the front of your boat wider so you don't have to make so many passes, almost like mowing the lawn in a way. And then you can also actually upgrade the container on the back of the boat. So you have a cube glass container that collects the oil as you drive through it. And that fills up. And once it fills up, you can't actually get any more oil. You have to go back to the boat. But you can upgrade that so you can actually stay out longer rather than constantly making those trips back to the main ship. This is, to Steve's point, Steve mentioned a little bit ago, very much a Zen game. It is the type of game that you play. Dave mentioned Elden Ring earlier, right? Elden Ring can be pretty intense. Any Dark Souls game could be pretty intense. Or if you're really into competitive games, right now, I've been playing a lot of Magic the Gathering Arena, much to my dismay of other things I should be doing. I'm addicted to it, but it is ultra competitive in certain formats, right? And I've kind of gotten into that a little bit stressful. So Spilled is the exact thing that you would like to do when your mind, your brain is overstressed from work or other games that you've been playing that take a lot more attention and focus. Spilled is perfect to just wind down. The only thing I would say about this game that is like a big detraction for me is I wish it was longer or that there was more to do, right? I'm not one of those people. I read a couple Steam reviews. The negative reviews on Steam are mostly that I paid $6 for a 1 hour game, and that's not exactly good value or whatever, right? I don't think that that's the case. I think truly, for me, indies have to have a certain amount of cost for a lot of people to even look at them, right? If this game was $1, would it have gotten as much attention? Maybe. I don't know that the price tag ever means anything. That's a completely different discussion. But for me personally, I think $6 is completely fair for this game, especially the way it looks. It is such an incredible looking game. I just hope that this, as we were talking about earlier, it's already got 2,000 reviews and overwhelmingly positive on Steam. I hope that this translates to more games from this dev, and I would be completely fine with even a Spilled 2 or something like that. Like, give me more of this, flesh it out a little bit more areas, more mechanics. I'm all for it, and I would be here absolutely for Spilled 2. Any other questions before I put Spilled on the quest log?
I think you nailed it.
Yeah.
I do want to mention that on the Steam page, it does say every sale gives 10 cents towards, what is the charity? It is the WDC, which is Whale and Dolphin Conservation in the UK, which is pretty cool. 10 cents. I mean, it's a $6 game, so sell 1,000 of them. That starts to add up.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned that visually it's kind of similar to Naiad, which is interesting because it's in a bundle called the Wholesome Waves bundle that includes Naiad and
Heck yeah.
Not, which is not a game I've played.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's less gamey probably than Naiad is, but to the point you made a few episodes, Steve, on that game, this one certainly wraps up even sooner than you would like it to, even though Naiad might do the opposite in certain ways. But maybe if they collaborate, they make a 3-hour game and just push it out. I guess that's what I want.
Seems like there's a thriving water-based indie community, so I'm sure that they can get together and work this out.
Heck yeah. All right. With that, I will put Spilled on the quest log. I think it's going to be pretty obvious to most people out there. Spilled is a side quest. It is one of those games that was made from the ground up to be a side quest on our show. Like that's kind of what it is. That's the point. It's the game that you play in between other major life events or major games that you're playing to just kind of unwind and zen out and have a good time for an hour or an hour and a half and then go and find the next thing you're going to play. But a side quest game, as Josh mentioned a little bit ago, is still a much recommended game. I truly would recommend Spilled to almost anyone. It is just a really good experience. It's really kind of cool to play it and to clean everything up and to make things look pretty and then move on and do the same thing over and over and over again and eventually get to the point where you see those credits roll and it feels good. It makes you feel good once it's finished. So that's Spilled. It's on the side quest.
Awesome. Great pick. I do want to check it out now before the end of the year. It seems like the type of game that could sneak its way onto my Game of the Year list. It just seems nice.
Yes, it is nice.
All right. So the question I'm going to ask, do you want Dave to go next or should I go next? Because I have another shortish one.
I want Dave to go. I want to hear my guy tell me about his game.
It sounds good to me.
Okay. Well, I spent quite a bit of time poring over the quest log, seeing I listened to the show, but seeing just everything that's been taken. There's a lot of bangers on here, but you all are missing one of my favorite games that I've played in recent memory, which is not a new game, but it's been continually expanded since its release. Let me find out when it was released. I should have done a bit of homework beforehand. This was released in 2017, so not exactly a new game, but it did have a new expansion come out this year. So I've been playing it again, and I was just at PAX East, and I got to play the new game by these two developers, two-person team primarily. So this game's been back on my brain, and it's Rain World. Rain World has not been brought to the show yet.
So here's my comment about Rain World. I have about played, and we'll see, maybe this will push me over the edge, but I have nearly played Rain World so many times. But the thing that always gets me is the commentary around difficulty. And I suppose you'll get to that, but I've just heard that it's contrary to what it looks like, it is not an easy game, which totally fine. I enjoyed that type of experience, but this game, the looks versus the difficulty gameplay wise couldn't be further apart, right? So
yeah. So Josh, Steve, have you played Rain World?
I have not.
I haven't.
This is one of those games that I've been saving. Like, I have a copy of it on my shelf back there. I've almost played it like a dozen times. There's just some games that based on like a little bit of footage and the conversation from people you trust, where you're like, there's no world I'm not going to enjoy this game. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be a Rain World sicko when I finally play it. And I've just been waiting for the right time, which hasn't come yet. So I'm very pumped that you brought it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a same comment from Seth where everyone's like, this game is just so brutally hard that I'm not having fun. The negative side kind of colored my interest in the game. And I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't even try it. But I'm interested to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, you're in luck because I have a lot to say about Rain World. So it's a 2-person development team. Their studio is called Video Cult, and it was published by, I think Akupara Games handles the publishing now, but I think it's changed publishers a little bit over time. Akupara handles it now, though, and they generally publish cool stuff. Rain World, for those who don't know, it's a 2D platformer. That's the way I would best describe it. It looks like a Metroidvania. It's not. It is an open-ended exploration based platformer. Very non-linear. Like there's a couple like key items that you get that will allow you passage to new places, but other than that, if you're persistent enough, you can get anywhere in the game. You can sequence break if you know what you're doing. It's that kind of game. In Rain World, you play as a little animal. It's called a slug cat. It's just like a real squishy little rabbit cat looking animal. And you're a prey animal. That's like the kind of key thing that sets up the difficulty in Rain World is you can't really fight anything. You're pretty low on the food chain. There are insects that you can catch and eat, and there's fruit that you can find and eat too, as well as some other random stuff that you can eat. And you got to find food. It's a survival game. Every day there is a ticking timer until the rain comes, and you have to find shelter before the rain comes because the rain in Rain World is no joke. It will kill you instantly once it starts raining. Not instantly. You have a little bit of time to like get in before the rain gets serious, but when the rain properly begins, it's death. So you have to find shelter and you have to find enough food to survive the night, we'll say. If you don't have food, you can still rest in a shelter, but it doesn't save your game. So that's kind of like the survival struggle of it. But the other part of the difficulty is the world is full of predators, like absolutely chock full of predators. And you can find little spears, you can throw rocks, you can dodge, dip, duck, dive, and dodge and get out of the way, and you can manipulate the prey animals if you know what you're doing. But like if they corner you, you can't fight back. They'll just kill you and eat you. So that's where the difficulty comes in because the whole world is simulated. Every prey animal that's in there has a set of programmed AI behaviors, and they just kind of wander the map. So it's not like you go in a room and, you know, most video games will have like a specific layout of enemy here, and it's a specific challenge to get through that room. But in Rain World, it's all simulated. So you can go in that room one time and it's completely empty and you just kind of go along your way and explore and try and find food. The next time you go in that room, there might be 3 prey animals in there. And you can like try to dodge out of the way or, you know, take a different route. Sometimes you just go through a door and there's a lizard just sitting right in front of the door and it just snatches you up before you can even react. So that's where I think some of the difficulty and frustration comes from because it truly is kind of random what's going on, and gamers don't like to have control taken away from them in a way that feels unfair. And Rain World feels very unfair sometimes. But I think it just takes a little bit of adjusting your mindset to just be like, yeah, sometimes there's just going to be some stuff that I could not have done anything about. And other times, like say there's a lizard over there, I throw a rock, it gets its attention, then I duck under like on a lower platform and I make it to the next room. Sometimes I get lucky and these 2 lizards see each other and they start fighting each other and I can just get by, you know, they don't even pay attention to me. And like that stuff feels good. It's one of those games that like the more you learn how things work and how they interact and how different animals interact, you can take advantage of that. And so knowledge is power. And there's a ton that the game doesn't explain to you. I think it probably explains a little bit less than it should. But once you kind of learn how it all works, then it never stops being difficult, but it always feels manageable. And then like, because it's randomized, say there's this room that's been giving me trouble. Next time I go there, there might not be as big a trouble in there the next time. Those animals may have moved on. Maybe they took my corpse from last run and they went off somewhere else to go eat it or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it is very difficult, but it's not impossible. It just it's difficult in a way that most games are not difficult, because most games would not create difficulty out of randomly generated situations that you have no recourse sometimes, like roguelikes will have randomly generated stuff, and it's like, but it's generated out of like a bunch of situations that you could probably overcome, Rain World, sometimes it's just not your run, sometimes not your day. But tomorrow's going to be different a little bit, and you learn and you move on. And so like, I think it took me about 25, 30 hours to beat. And throughout the process of learning and overcoming and trying to figure out where I'm supposed to go, learning some of these hidden interactions, what some of these animals can be used for around, because not all the animals are hostile to you. Some are really useful. That knowledge just like pushed this so far into like sicko territory, like Steve said. Like, if you give it the time, and if you don't bounce off of it, because it's possible that you will, I think that it's like a very, very special game. And I think that a lot of people have felt the way that I felt, because it's become like a big hit for these two developers. They've put out like 6 or 7 DLC characters that all kind of play a little bit differently. Oh, wow. They all have different strengths and weaknesses. The new expansion's like really, really off the wall. It's super weird. But I think it's the last one. So like, they're like, we're getting this weird thing out there. That was a lot. So before I say more about Rain World, does anyone have any questions about it?
I do actually. I still don't fully understand how it works. So you said like you find food and you bring it to like a safe place for the night. Does that become like your new flag in the ground, your new checkpoint where you'll start if you die? Or if you die, do you start like a run over again?
Right. So the shelters, as long as you don't have to bring the food back, you can just eat it on the spot, and you have little like hunger pips or like stomach capacity or whatever. And as long as you get above a certain threshold, you'll be able to rest and save at a checkpoint. And then, like you said, that becomes your hard checkpoint. If you die, that's where you respawn. There's also a karma system. So every time you die, your karma goes down, and every time you rest successfully with a full stomach, your karma goes up. And there are gates in the world that you need a certain level of karma to get through. So that's kind of how it can feel like super punishing sometimes when you're like, I'm at the lowest karma and I've died 20 times in a row. Like, I'm not making any progress. Like, that can feel pretty rough. But it's kind of like in Souls, like it feels really bad to lose your souls permanently for the first time. Mm-hmm. But after that happens, you realize it's not really a big deal. Mm-hmm. And in Rain World, like your karma bottoms out, like it doesn't endlessly go down forever. So you can always dig yourself out of a bad situation by being really careful, getting a little bit lucky,
I mean, it's very cliche to say, but it sounds like there is a fair bit of Souls influence here. I mean, what you're describing is kind of essentially the bonfire system, and then when you're talking about karma, my brain goes right to World Tendency from Demon Souls. So.
In a way, I remember reading a story about the developer wanting to gamify an experience that they had as an exchange student where they didn't speak the language, they didn't really know how things worked around the place where they were living, and that's kind of the situation in Rain World. There's a bunch of signs around, but it's in a language you can't read. You don't know how the game works, really. Like, you know how to do your basic platforming moves, and there's a little guy that's kind of pointing you in the right direction, the very, very general direction that you should be going. But there's a ton of hidden interactivity, hidden mechanics that even I don't know about still. So it kind of gives you that feeling of being a stranger in a strange land.
saying everything I want to hear right now.
I was going to say, you're getting Steve hyped over here. I can see it on his face.
Language I don't understand, hidden mechanics, keep talking.
Yeah. Presentation-wise, it's also really cool. Like, the pixel art's really nice. It's kind of chunky, the pixel art, but the animation is really smooth. I think they do some procedurally generated animations to make it look really smooth. In the way that all these different monsters or animals can behave in kind of erratic or unpredictable ways. I think that helped that team kind of smooth out some of those things. And then the soundtrack is beautiful. It's pretty sparse most of the time. A lot of just environmental sounds. But music will kick up during especially dangerous situations, during big set piece moments and stuff. The soundtrack is really, really nice. There's a lot of music in the game. It's really cool. The monster designs, the lizards, they're these birds that swoop down from the sky. They all look metal as hell. It's very colorful. Different lizards, different animals will have different colors. So like a pink lizard behaves different from a green lizard. And learning some of that stuff is part of the journey that you go on, and just learning how everything works and how you can use what you know about them to maybe get them to leave you alone or just get by them any way you can.
I'm looking at some seemingly rabbits that have antlers that are just staring menacingly at the character in this one screenshot. But
oh yeah. So it's like you'll come across that in the game and you'll be like, well, it's not trying to eat me right away, but what are we supposed to do with you? You know, it's one of those where you just kind of have to figure out what if anything can I do with this creature, if it's not immediately trying to eat me, because that'll be clear a lot of times too.
That gives me, I can't remember if you played Animal Well, Dave.
I did.
But that gives me a little bit of those vibes too, right? Where certain creatures in Animal Well are absolutely going to destroy you as soon as you see them, whereas other ones don't, and you have to figure out how to utilize them in different ways, right? You mentioned different animals roaming, and they'll be in different places randomly. Is the game itself like the actual world randomly generated, or if I were to play a playthrough today, will be the same structure that I will go through in the future as well?
Yeah, the map is not randomly generated. Okay. It is it's a bespoke map. There is a wonderful, very, very detailed map that fans have made, because the map system in the game is kind of weird. It's another one of those things where it's like, you got to learn how to play the game. You got to learn how to read the map. It's a whole thing. But fans have put together a really, really cool interactive map online. So that part is not randomly generated. It's just the ecosystem is randomly generated. And the behaviors, it's like when you boot the game up, it just kind of spawns in all these monsters, and then it just sets them off to live their own lives. And you'll come across them sometimes, and sometimes you won't. There are monsters in the game that I feel like I only came across a couple times, and maybe it was supposed to be that way, but maybe I just got lucky, you know? It's hard to say.
Love that.
It gives a very, oh man, I'm struggling so much, I'm going to go find a guide. Even for Souls games, I can do that, and somebody's going to be able to tell me, well, don't worry about fighting that enemy. Just run by them or whatever. But this game doesn't allow for that, which is interesting, right? It's almost like real life in a way. Like, I'm going to walk outside today, and I might see a cat or something run by, and tomorrow that cat's not going to be there. Like, or it could be, right? You don't know. And that's what's interesting. I kind of love that about this, right? Versus most normal video games.
I'm excited. I'm pumped. I got to go play now.
So like, now that I've kind of talked about it a little bit, like, I want to wrap it back to like the difficulty of it, because that's what Seth just said there was like, it's basically how you motivate yourself to keep going, because the game can get really frustrating sometimes, just because like you legitimately have like 15 straight days of just the worst luck of where these enemies are. And you can feel like there's nothing you can do. And like, honestly, unless you're very good at the game, there is nothing you can do. You can go somewhere else or you can die. But the thing that like helps with that is the fact that, yeah, this room that I need to get through to make progress there were 5 lizards in there the last time I, went in there and I died. There's not going to be 5 lizards the next time I go in that room because they all disperse or something's going to be different. So you use what you learn. Death is a good tool about how enemies work and how you might be able to avoid them. Your slug cat is more maneuverable than it seems at first. Like there's some cool little like platforming moves that you can pull off once you're pretty comfortable with the controls. And so once you learn and once you kind of just accept that some days are just not going to go well, I do think that you get that really satisfying feeling of overcoming challenge when you find a new shelter, especially if like the rain is like starting to come down and you're in this desperate, like, I have 10 seconds left. The next room better have a shelter in it. And then you go in there and it does. And it's like this triumphant feeling. If you're willing to put up with being frustrated, kind of like Steve and I talked about with Void Stranger on our podcast, like that game's just going to frustrate the hell out of you sometimes. And if you're willing to put up with it, you might come out the other side with like one of your favorite games of all time. And Rain World is absolutely one of those games. But it's like, it's one that if someone said, I tried it and it was super frustrating and I just didn't want that in my life, I'd be like, yeah, I get it. I totally get that. So, it's one that like IndieQuest has to have Rain World on the quest log at some point. It's one of those games for me, it's an all-time great game, despite, the caveats that it was not made to be enjoyed by literally everyone who plays it, Mm-hmm. So
this is the opposite of Spilled.
What I was I was thinking that exact like once I die for the 5th time straight in Rain World, I'm going to go play some Spilled. Like
exactly. Yeah. you boot up Spilled so that you can calm down and like go to sleep with your blood pressure at a normal level. I had a great time streaming Rain World too. It's a really fun one to stream and kind of commiserate with the chat, or if you're in the chat, commiserate with the streamer. I had a lot of people who said like, it's really fun to watch you play it, but I don't think I would want to do this whole thing myself. So a good one to play with people and just kind of be like, yeah, this sucks, doesn't it? And just laugh together,
Okay, maybe then to let you round out your thoughts as you get to putting it on the quest log, although I have a gut feeling where it's going. What did motivate you to keep playing it? Because I think you and I both with Void Stranger were like, there is just enough here to keep going, but it is borderline in terms of like my patience. What about Rain World was like definitely compelling you to continue on?
2 things. So the first thing is there's a real mystery about what the world of Rain World is. There is a story in Rain World. Like I wouldn't say there's a definitive story unless you're like a super Rain World lore hound. But there is a story for sure. It's just very sparsely told and, a lot of environmental details, but there's a very, very tangible, mysterious quality to it. And wanting to know what was up was part of the motivation. But the real motivation to keep going was I might feel frustrated right now, but I felt this same way 2 hours ago, and I overcame that thing 2 hours ago. Through a combination of skill, luck, and knowledge, I suppose. And I can get through whatever it is that's in front of me now through another combination of skill, luck, and knowledge. Like you can overcome it. So I think it's the same thing as like any other difficult game. Like you're going to hit some walls, you're going to get frustrated sometimes, but at the end of the day, it's just not. It's done in a different way, but the feeling of being frustrated and then overcoming it is not that different from other stuff. You just got to like mentally be ready that sometimes you walk in a door and there's a bird right there and it just snatches you up. You had no time to react to it. And that's how your day ended on that day. And you just got to try again the next time. That bird probably won't be there. And then you live and learn. So that was kind of what kept me going.
That makes sense.
You might have mentioned this, Dave, but is there I imagine there is. What's the lore behind death? Like, do you have multiple bodies? Is that part of your character?
Ooh, well, I don't want to say too much, but I already said that there's a system in the game called karma. So that might give you a clue as to possibly what's going on, but there is some kind of cyclical thing going on.
Okay.
That's all I'll say.
I just want to make a comment that just reframing this game, you reframed this game in my mind, because I always look at it and that game looks beautiful. It looks like a game I might enjoy, and then read the comments of everyone just complaining about how frustrated they are, and then reframing it in my mind more of okay, this is kind of like a survival game in that respect, where it's you build up most survival games, you build up a camp or an encampment of sorts, and then you might go out and just get destroyed by a mob, but there's always camp to go back to. But here it's more just continually finding new shelter, which I like that. Just the idea of it and just thinking of it in that way makes me feel hey, maybe one day I'll play this, instead of maybe not on my radar ever, so appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a bunch of survival games that are tough, especially at the beginning, before you really know what's going on, before you have good spots to go, gather the resources that you need or whatever. In Rain World, you'll definitely find a good spot where you're there's guaranteed food here. I know I can go to this spot, get some food. If I need to make a dash to a shelter and I don't have enough food in my stomach yet, I can stop by this room, and I know there's some fruit or there's some insects or something like that, and I can fill up. So I think it does analog pretty well to survival games. I don't play a lot of those, but from what I gather, you got your spots that you can count on. And I think the same goes for Rain World if you stay in the same area for long enough.
Yeah, I think the difference really there for a survival game, out of all of us here, I'm the one who probably played the most of them, and I still don't play them as much as a lot survival game fans do. But the worlds are always randomly generated, or for the most part in those. But having a bespoke world, a world that's tailor made, is interesting to me. So.
Right, and because it's a game, you have to progress from here to there to there to there to there to there to beat the game. It is a game because it's not procedurally generated, the map. You can be I don't know where to go, someone help me out. And you can get a very concrete tip about where you should be headed. And then that will help you out a lot too.
Nice.
Well, awesome. Well, where'd you put it?
Ooh, well, you guys told me you were giving me power beforehand. By definition, I think Rain World should be a side quest because of the caveats that it's not for everybody. You're going to get mad. It's part of the experience. But I really think that this is a singularly great video game. There is nothing out there like Rain World. Absolutely nobody's trying to do what Rain World did. So, to me, it's a certified banger in an incredible experience. And there are other incredible experiences on the quest log that are not for everybody.
Yeah, sure.
I think that this is legitimately one of the best indie games ever made. It's just very, very confident in what it is, and it makes you get on the level that the game is at before you'll be able to fully take it in. So I'm putting it on the main quest. I think it's that good. And it's because you guys gave me the power to do so.
I mean, I'll to peel the curtain back for people. The quest log, sometimes as we're recording, I'm updating it in real time so I don't forget to do it after the show. And halfway through you describing the game, I put Rain World on the main quest because I was I know where this one's going to go. So I'm glad that that's where you landed. And that's certainly where I would have put it too. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be a fully accessible game. Sometimes a game just overachieved so successfully, but you have to give it its accolades, right?
Mm-hmm. It's the type of game that it's not going to hit for absolutely everybody, but like for the people that it hits, it's going to be one of their favorite games that they ever played. It's that type of game.
Everything you've said makes me... I think about this almost daily, but a long, long time ago, I put one of my favorite games of all time, Enter the Gungeon, on the side quest. And everything you just said is like, God, why didn't... I know I should have put on the main quest way back then. I wouldn't feel bad about it now, but, different day.
Time for a second opinion.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, one of these two guys got to play it. I know. But anyway.
It's a shame. Like, Captain, it's a shame that they haven't released that edit feature for Google Sheets yet. They'll get there. We'll be able to do it someday. Awesome. Great pick. Josh, if you don't mind me going next, I think my game is a very natural follow-on to that because it shares a lot of similarities. This is a much more recent game, but this is also one that...
Do your thing. I know what you're bringing. I know what it is.
Yeah. This is also one that I think has a lot of enthusiasm wrapped up with people feeling a lot of frustration at the same time as they play through it. So... I mean, I've basically been saying for like 4 episodes I was going to bring this at first opportunity, so I am, of course, finally placing Blueprints onto the quest log.
Ooh, let's go.
So I'm excited because, Dave, I know you've played it, so we can get into it here.
Yeah.
But up front, developed by, do you know the Dogu Bomb?
Dogu Bomb, yeah.
Dogu Bomb. Published by Raw Fury, just came out recently, April 10th of this year, and it's on the current consoles, PS5 series, and on PC. So I would imagine most people listening to this show, most people invested enough in indie games to listen to an indie-focused show, are very aware of Blueprints already. But for those that, have not heard of it or are unaware, we'll give it its overview. It is first and foremost a roguelike. It is essentially a deck-building roguelike where you never really get to see the deck. But it's also a... I don't know the exact genre for this type of thing. It's a modern adventure puzzler. It's a puzzle game in the way that has become popular in the last 8 or so years.
It's like Myst if you built the island one tile at a time.
Exactly. So what do we mean by that? The setup, the premise for the game is that you play as this relatively young kid who is basically... It's the dream scenario for this kid. He's gifted like this enormous, gorgeous mountainside estate and mansion. With one caveat, your great uncle who's gifted it to you is apparently a puzzle hound and has said, "This is all yours, my friend, yours to keep, on the one condition that you can reach the mysterious room number 46 in my mansion." And as you start the game, you enter into the front doors of the mansion, you can immediately open up a map, and there is a 9x5 grid of rooms that are all entirely blank. So a couple things. One, you do the math, that's only 45 rooms, so you know immediately that something curious is going on here. Where does that room 46 fall into all of this? And two, why is that map blank? Well, it's because the mansion it's not set in stone. This is not a Resident Evil mansion. You are essentially, I don't know if in the lore you're building the mansion or I think you're discovering it as you go along, but it is a mystery to you. And when you walk up, you click on a door, you'll be presented 3 different rooms as options to draft in that doorway. So, you maybe choose between like a bedroom, a study, and a lounge or a bathroom or something like that. And it's up to you to decide which of these rooms do you want to attach to the current room you're in. And there's a lot of considerations that you need to make when doing that. First, the layout of the room you're about to draft is very important. Again, you're trying to reach room 46, but in reality, your immediate objective is the only room on the map is something called the antechamber at the very top. So even though that's not room 46, that's like kind of clearly your North Star because you have something to build towards that the game is pointing out to you. And so you need to craft rooms that will let you continue moving north across this mansion estate. But that said, you're not going to be very successful if you just start building straight north because there's a whole bunch of resources and systems you need to consider. There's a number of different, basically, currencies that you have to keep track of. One is coins. There's just literal money scattered around. Certain rooms will be, maybe more generous with the cash, and those are used to buy items that will let you do certain things and ultimately make your run a little bit more successful. You will find keys, which are important because the latter half of the mansion especially has increasingly high chances that a door will be locked, and if you don't have a key to open that door, you just can't proceed. Or you will find gems, which let you draft basically better rooms. It's rarer rooms, but they oftentimes have more doorways, more potential, or they have a bigger impact on either your run or the mansion's sort of current layout. And that is the first half of the game, and immediately I think is one of the things that excites people right up until it no longer excites them. I'm curious for that side, the mechanical side of it, Dave. How do you click with this game? How do you enjoy it?
It really reminded me of Animal Well in the way that, like, you play through Animal Well, you do the final boss, you see the credits, but it's very clear that if you want to, there's more for you to do. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I think a lot of people have just been like generally weird about that idea that like everything that the game has to offer should be before the credits. And I don't know, I don't get it. So I was perfectly fine with that. And I was like the way that it works is like, you took paper notes, right, Steve?
Oh, I have a whole notebook full of scribblings.
Yeah. So do I. So like you'll get to, I got to room 46 and I was like, I have pages of loose ends that I'm still interested in following up on. So, if I'm still curious, I keep playing. And if I'm not still curious, then I got my experience with blueprints and I'm good with that. So yeah, that worked for me. I'm still playing. I still have so many things that I'm trying to uncover in the game. The thing that I've heard the most discourse about with blueprints is the fact that the mansion resets every day and your 3 rooms that you draw when you open up a new door are randomly generated, means that kind of like Rain World, like, you're just going to have some days when you just draw shitty rooms and you're just going to get blocked off and you have to try again the next time. And a lot of people have not been cool with that. How's that been for you?
That part has been perfectly fine for me. It has not bothered me, not to like come across and tell people how to feel, but there is a little bit of there's no penalty for your run ending. You hit a dead end.
Yeah.
You just start the next day. There's nothing in this game that is time-based. There's no, like, you're not being punished for moving on to the next day. The only thing you lost is your literal time, but the other half of that, and the whole other half of this game that we're talking about, is that puzzle element. I mean, yes, you are doing this roguelike-y stuff. You're moving forward, you're moving north, but the entire time you are constantly, and I mean like constantly, coming across little threads to pull on, little mysteries, like curious little oddities. There are like some rooms in the mansion that just kind of have like self-contained escape room style puzzles, but like the mass majority of what you're going to find is just something that to your eye for whatever reason is off, or you see something that clearly impacts something elsewhere that you just don't know what it's doing and you want to figure out what it's doing. And at least in my case, my notebook was so full of all those threads to pull that it was almost impossible for me to actually have a truly wasted run, because there's always something I can try to do, some path I can try to go down a little deeper, some knowledge I can try to gain, even if I'm not necessarily making my way all the way to the antechamber that day.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it takes a little bit of like reframing how you approach a new day in blueprints, because if you start the day and you're like, I'm definitely going to get up to the antechamber today, and then you just draw some dead end rooms and you can't get up there, then you're going to get mad about that. But in the course of drawing all those rooms, you've probably found some other stuff that you could explore, and if you just ignore that stuff, then you might come out frustrated. But someone mentioned Enter the Gungeon, and I actually thought about this, as like a roguelike thing. If you start a run in Enter the Gungeon and you're like, I'm going to get this specific gun because I like it a lot, and then you don't get that gun, you're like, this game sucks. Like, it's kind of that same feeling. Like, you just kind of roll with what you get, and you'll come out with other things to explore, a fun new gun to play with, and a fun new pun in Enter the Gungeon, or in Blueprints, new things to be like, what's the deal with those decorations? Or, I got this key. I don't know what this key does. Let me try and figure out what I can do with this key, like new mysteries to pull on. So yeah, maybe every run you didn't get to room 46. I've only gotten there twice, but, I can point to less than 5. I'm on like day 60 or so in my game. I can probably point to less than 5 days where I was like, that was a truly wasted day where I learned nothing and accomplished nothing,
Yep.
So it just takes some go with the flow attitude. And then I won't say how, but if you come across those ways that will let you get into the antechamber, then you can be like, okay, maybe I'll try to use my resources to make it happen this run, as opposed to like trying to force it. Because it's, you just draw a bunch of bad rooms and you're like, well, this day's kind of a wash, but I still, the other currency that you have is steps or energy.
Mm-hmm.
Each time you go through a room takes 1 step off of your count. And when you get to 0, the day's over. So if you like kind of dead end yourself, but you still have a bunch of steps left, it might be worth walking through those rooms again, just kind of looking around and seeing if there's anything you missed, because there probably was.
Yeah, there definitely is.
So steps go down even if you retrace your steps. So if I revisit a room I just came out of, my steps still go down. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and there are...
But there's no penalty for standing still for 4 hours of real time. So
Yeah.
You can really think about your route if you want to.
And steps is a little misleading if you haven't played the game, because it's only 1 step per room. So I can walk around in a room and look at all the walls and the things in it and the sculptures and everything in there, try to solve a mystery unique to that room, and it won't cost me any steps. And there are, of course, it being one of the currencies of the game, there are ways within the game to add steps back to your count as a resource, or like use steps as a resource to get other things accomplished. Like it has all the kind of trade-offs that you would hope for and expect. But I'm not sure if it's down to how the game is marketed, because they know that the mystery is so intriguing. But I feel like in conversations with people, sometimes after a little bit of time, people forget that this is a roguelike. Like the mysteries are so strong and so compelling that they forget that, yes, this is still like a run-based, failure is very possible video game. This is still something where you can like not achieve your stated end goal, if your stated end goal is to reach the antechamber, but hopefully you're enjoying the process of discovery along the way. I mean, there's plenty of times in this game where, I'm maybe 30 rooms deep, and I have only 1 doorway facing north, and every other route at this point is a dead end. And I go to draft my 3 rooms, and I can either draft like a safe northern pathway or a new room I've never seen before. But that's going to kill my run. I'll almost always happily draft the new room to get new information and start my run over again, because that's like the compelling part of the thing that really drives you forward.
Yeah, that new room might recontextualize how you're playing the game. Like it might teach you something like groundbreaking. So it's worth it to just be okay with not getting to the end every single time. Like that's kind of not the point. Basically, after the first couple days, you have way more threads to pull on than just make it to room 46. So, like you said, I very rarely feel like I had a truly wasted run. And you can, if you just have like a bad smell about a run that you're on, you can just kill it right away and start over from. There's no punishment for taking 400 days to beat the game. Like there's no time pressure whatsoever. So if that's how you want to do it, feel free. Like it's more generous than it seems, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Question for you both. Do you think that the roguelite elements of this game add enough to it that makes it so it's like, okay, I'm glad it is this way? Or do you think that if it wasn't one for a game like this, it would appeal to more people and could potentially be a better game? Because this is the first of its kind, really, right? I mean, there's not been a roguelite like this.
I'll say this about it, because I've actually, I don't know that I have a good answer to that question, and I've thought about it a little bit. There are kind of two pieces that we've talked about that are very, like, they're going to draw in different types of people. I think if this game was just a roguelike with the door draft or the room drafting system without this higher like layer or layers to explore, it would still be a really fun and interesting game. It would still be very unique. Mm-hmm. And I think if it was just like a, straightforward standard layout, a lot of those mysteries would still hold, but something would be lost there, because there's so much to do and so many like theories to test, and some of them really do come down to like drafting certain combinations of rooms near each other on occasion or like together. And I think that feeling of like your run having potential to go down this one path because of how you've built the mansion is compelling enough to make the roguelike relevant to all of the runs. But I think you could still get a great game out of it otherwise.
Yeah. I think that there's a mastery of strategy for how to draft the rooms too, that you would definitely lose the satisfaction of like having a good strategy for how to build out the mansion if it was not, if it didn't reset, if it was the Resident Evil 1 mansion that you're going through. Because there are some ways that you can kind of mitigate the randomness of it. There's always going to be some degree of randomness, but there are ways that you can kind of, overcome some of that without saying too much. And then there's also just like, you just learn like, well, it's not a good strategy to use a straight on hallway on the lower ranks of the house because they're much more valuable later on. So I'll pick something else. I'll be okay with dead ends, in the first couple rows of the house because I'll get some treasures and more currency and stuff like that. And you just kind of pick up little tricks and best practices along the way. And I think that you would lose some of that like process of learning and strategy if you weren't building the house from scratch every single day. So like Steve said, if this was the Resident Evil 1 mansion, it would be a really fun game. It would be a lot more like just, Myst in a different setting, I think. But, and I mean, nothing wrong with Myst. Myst is an all-time game. But I think that other element does add a lot to the experience of being like, I actually kind of like, yes, I have to start from scratch, but I know what I'm doing. Like I can reasonably get to where I want to get. I can find the rooms that I want to find because I've learned how this works.
Yeah. I haven't played the game yet. It's on my list. I'm definitely getting into it this year. But every time people describe this game to me, it just makes me think of Outer Wilds a little bit. It's like you got that 22 minutes. The first time you do that 22 minutes, you're like, this sucks. I hate driving this ship. I hate going to this planet. I hate everything about it.
I fell in a black hole.
Yeah, I fell in a black hole. I got sucked into the sun. This sucked. But then you get back out there and you keep exploring, and then the more you explore, the easier the game gets, and the more you learn, and that knowledge makes the game that much better. So I really feel like people just need to reframe their mind of like, a run isn't a failure. A run is, I learned something new. I'm going to take that to my next run and keep on going and use that information to, piece out all the puzzles, which, I can't wait to have a notebook full of stuff too. I'm going to get to this game. I just haven't got to it yet, but yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that like, I would bet that Steve's had this experience too, but I've had a bunch of runs where I wasn't trying to get to room 46. I was trying to test weird theories that I had about other stuff. And like, that's super cool. That reminded me of Outer Wilds, where I would spend hours trying to figure out what do I do with the Ash twins and stuff
Exactly.
like that, you know?
Yep.
Which is why I knew this would be a Steve game once I figured out like what kind of game Blueprints was, because I know that's it's like really, I don't know if it's calling back, but it's certainly reminiscent of the experience of playing something like Outer Wilds and learning how the solar system works.
Yeah. Something about that loop, that sense of discovery coupled with something that gets people a little frustrated, it's like, that's the center of my Venn diagram. That's why I'm pumped for Rain World, right? It's that exact thing.
Yeah. A little bit of friction is good for you.
Yes.
It's good for your game.
And to conclude on that, Seth, I also think a big part of the sense of discovery, or like the process of learning and puzzle solving in this game, is it's the type of game, it has, I guess I shouldn't even make references to other games to avoid really like drawing people's attention or spoiling anything, but it is the type of game where you will have things you've been looking at frequently in the game recontextualized as you learn more. And so the rooms being random and you drafting them sometimes out of necessity, sometimes out of curiosity, and having to just walk through those spaces so often makes it so that maybe the 8th time something you finally notice something because you've been forced into this room 8 times, or you're familiar enough with this room where suddenly when you're like, oh wait, I think I might understand something about how this works, now your brain or your notebook or both has like a solid reference of, okay, I know this in this room or something I need to go check out now and test this hypothesis. So that makes that component work well.
That reminds me of The Witness. I won't say much more than that, but you walk through that area in The Witness so much, and then you notice something, and you're like, "Wait a minute!" That game does that a lot. So I feel like this is very analogous to that.
Yes, very much so.
It's very cool. They, I read that they had basically finished the game years ago and just spent years playtesting and like fine tuning the experience of it. So like, if randomness didn't work, they would have known that years ago and they would have changed it. But like, I think they really, it's a core part of the experience to have it randomized and to have you learn how you should build out the house to follow the leads you want to follow. I think it is pretty essential to the experience. It would still be a good game without it, but it would be a very different game.
Yep.
I think the way that I would liken it, because for a long time, until I suppose we started talking here, I've thought I was probably in that camp of, that's a little bit frustrating that you can get to a point where you can't really do anything. But the more you guys have talked and the more I've thought about it as you've been talking, there are plenty of roguelites where meta progression basically halts your progress because you are just not strong enough to continue. Like in Hades, for example. You're never going to beat Hades on the first run. It's basically impossible. I mean, there are people who have done it, but it's practically impossible. So to kind of recontextualize that for people out there too, right? This is just that. You just don't get meta progression in that same way where, I can go buy things at a store that make me stronger for every run. It's just in your head, right? You learn stuff. So that kind of turns me on to it even more. And I felt for a while, I've been kind of like, is this the game that I'm just going to skip, that I'm not going to play and not going to have that point to connect to that everyone else does. But honestly, I think that kind of gets me over that hump a little bit and makes me want to play it even more. So,
and I will say, again, without spoiling things for folks, it is a roguelike, so there is, in some form, some meta progression. There are systems in place to make future runs easier. In multiple forms, actually. So, and all that is to say, I just kind of like what we just said about Rain World. If you are playing this game and you are being frustrated, that is fine. Like, if this is not the game for you at that place in your life, that is totally fine. I just want to make kind of the compelling argument for the people that are liking a lot about the game, but hitting that wall of friction. Hopefully that recontextualization helps you enjoy the process or makes it go a little more smoothly. So, Yeah, it's just a great game, you guys. I beat the game in like 15 hours, and now I've put like 45 hours into it. So it's awesome. I think last year I thought Animal Well was like one of the deepest games I had played in terms of like those layers that we always talk about. But I think Blueprints clears Animal Well. Like I think Blueprints truly has the deepest well of any game I've really ever played.
Yeah, I've seen some real sicko hour counts and day like in-game day counts from Blueprints that I think does eclipse Animal Well. But it does have that same level of like most people who play it, even if you love the game, you're not going to get to the bottom of everything that's going on in it. Yes. Animal Well went very, very deep to an insane level too. But I think there was even like an Aftermath article by someone who played the game for like 200 hours, Blueprints, and is like, it's still going. I don't know where this ends. Yeah. And that's wild to me.
Yeah. The fact that we're, a month and change into this game being released and like the full community focused effort hasn't solved all the mysteries yet shows you just how much there is there and how unique it is.
But like that, if I can just add one final thing, like looping all the way back to something I said at the beginning of the Blueprints discussion here, the fact that people have played this for 200 hours and they're still finding new things to explore should make people okay with drawing their own line for how much they want to play. Mm-hmm. And if the credits roll at 15 hours for you and it was like 20-ish hours for me, and we were just like, yeah, that's cool. I got my experience with Blueprints. There's more to see. Like, I think that you should be okay with drawing your own line in this game. Wherever you decide that your curiosity is either gone or satisfied, or you just, the juice isn't worth the squeeze anymore, because it can be, there's some difficult stuff that I'm trying right now. Like, wherever that point is for you, I think that everyone should be okay with drawing their own line, because obviously, like, would people want the credits to roll at hour 250? Yeah. Like, that would be ridiculous. So, like, just be okay with making the decision of, like, I've had my experience. It's time to stop playing Blueprints.
Yeah, exactly, right. And this is the same way that I approached Animal Well and the same way I approached Blueprints, is that at some point I'll hit a limit where, like, my hour count to discovery ratio is just slightly off or tipped in the other direction, and then I'll be content to shelve it and have had my time, and I'll move over to basically just consuming a bunch of YouTube videos of hyper obsessives and watching all the fun stuff that they've discovered, which is its own joy. So, any other lingering questions from anybody, or any other thoughts that you want to add before we place this bad boy?
I like the art style. It's a nice looking game.
It is, yeah. It is a good looking game. It's like a little creepy. It's the type of game that would go into a list of like, what are some games that aren't scary games but creeped you out when you were younger? Blueprints has a little bit of that energy, like just slightly overcast day kind of vibes.
Mm-hmm. Also, just real quick, the soundtrack is really good.
Yes.
Like, the music is fantastic in the game. I don't think it's going to get a lot of fanfare for like best soundtrack at Game of the Year or whatever, but it's really good.
It's the type of soundtrack that when I'm playing, I'm not like absorbing it actively, but it's adding to the moment really well. And then later when I go listen to it, I'm like, oh man, that is good.
Yeah. Listen to that clarinet. Like, it's just really nice.
Seth, did you have one? I saw you.
I was going to say, did you like the music or something along those lines? I was just trying to check that box, and then Dave did it for me.
There you go.
There we go.
Good on both of you. Blueprints is a main quest. I mean, I will say, you never know how your life is going to shake out, but 2 days into playing Blueprints, I was like, okay, well, this is my game of the year and nothing is going to topple it. Now, I didn't know Clair Obscur would come out right after, which is a separate conversation for a different day. So it's hard to know where I stand at this point. But I will say Blueprints, just phenomenal. This is the most Steve game that someone could reasonably make. And I'm glad to see it hitting for so many people.
Yep, I agree. You don't need me to agree, but I agree. Easy main quest.
Yeah.
One of those games that like, I don't sit and play games for like, multiple hours in a row very often. If I'm gaming for 3 hours in a row, I'll switch games. But Blueprints, like time just disappears when I'm playing Blueprints. There's just so much to keep my mind busy. Really hard to stop playing. So
Yes.
also, as far as I know, solo developer, mostly solo developed. I'm sure there's people that helped out, but yeah, which staggering that just like Animal Well, staggering that this all came out of one person.
Yeah, just dedicating a decade of their lives essentially to producing this, and it was worth the effort. Thank you for that decade, because man, this game is good.
Yep.
All right. Well, I guess it's my turn to round us out today.
Yeah.
I've been saying it's a little bit of a shorter one, but it's worth bringing to the show. I enjoyed this game. It's a brand new game. Just came out this month, May 1st. It's called Shotgun Cop Man.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. So continue putting our Devolver Digital games on there. I know, Seth, that's one of your big goals, to try to get all of them on there eventually. So what is Shotgun Cop Man? Well, it's made by Dead Toast Entertainment. They made My Friend Pedro, which I enjoyed and put on the main quest. I really like that game. Very stylish and fun to play. They continue that here in this game. The whole premise of the game is you're going to hell to arrest Satan. And there are 9 worlds that have 17 stages in them. So it's 9 circles of hell. And at the first stage, every time you land into the world, it's a 2D platformer. Satan will walk up to you and go, "Satan, I'm here to arrest you," or some comment like that. And he'll just flip you off and say, "Fuck you, Shotgun Cop Man," and then he just takes off, and then you just keep going. So it has a very zany sense of humor to it. The interesting thing this game does, and what sets us apart from a lot of these type of like platforming games, is there's no jump button. The way you jump is you use your shotgun. And so the left trigger is the shotgun blast, and then your right trigger is the pistol. So say I shoot the ground with the pistol, you're going to do like a little bunny hop to like jump over bullets and things like that. If you shoot the ground with the shotgun, you jump really high up into the air. And then you can also like kind of like hover in the air if you like shoot multiple times with your sidearm, which could be the pistol, or you can pick up like an Uzi or another shotgun, or flamethrower, whatever is in the environment. You can pick it up and kill the enemies. So the main idea of the game is trying to get through these stages as fast as you can and killing everything in the stage as quickly as you can as well, because they have separate challenges to, like, how some games like you beat the stage, but there's also like you got to do it a certain amount of time, or like speed run or whatever. They have those specific challenges there. There are stage hazards that kind of build upon the main mechanics, and really the game is, let's just get to the end of the stage and do it as fast as possible and kill a bunch of things. And there's a bunch of funny humor in there. The art style is pretty cool. It's mostly just black and white color. There's not much to it. It's very simple looking. But
I don't know, man. I'm looking at the character models. I don't know if I'd say there's not much to it. There's some real,
when they
like,
zoom in on their face,
like haunted YouTube video for kids energy, some like freaky fingers energy to this going on. It sticks with me.
It's so funny that the cinematics look like that when you have this like kind of basic 2D game that you platformer, and then they have like these realistic computerized faces in the cutscenes. Like, it's just so funny.
It's so ridiculous, and there really isn't much story. Like, the whole idea is like, okay, here each layer of hell has like kind of a new mechanic. So one will give you like a reload token in the air that you can collect and basically keep shooting upwards with a shotgun. Or there's ones with like gates that you have to like shoot or get like a gun that kind of has basically like a bubble like line that you can like go around a corner to hit a trigger to open gates and things like that, and each stage has its own gimmick basically. I will say the game is really fun. It's really entertaining, and they do a good job. keeping it interesting, because I was like, this is a lot of stages. Like, because you can actually kind of thumb through all the stages when you first start. You can go all the way down to like, it's 17 times 9, whatever that is. I'm not very good with quick math off the top of my head. All those together, and I assume there are some unlockable bonus stages if you get some objectives. I haven't unlocked many of them, but that is something you can do. There are also rooms that you'll walk into on a stage where it's like kill 42 enemies and do it as fast as you can, and a bunch of guns will spawn in, and your goal is just to survive. This game isn't a splatformer type game because there is very forgiving life system. So if you get hit, your heart will come out of your body, and if you collect the heart, you can continue on with the stage. And say you get hit twice, you'll die, but the checkpoints are very forgiving. Like you'll just go back maybe like 2 seconds in the stage. You're not going to start the stage over. So it can feel very easy at times, because you're just like, okay, I can get hit as much as you can, but also they have the bonus objectives of, hey, don't get hit during the stage, and then of course killing all the enemies in the stage. I'm trying to think what else there is. There are boss fights. They're all very interesting and unique. They have, different waves to them, or different patterns they'll have. Like the first boss that you'll encounter is basically a big saw blade that has other saw blades that come out of it, and you're just kind of trying to dodge around and kill them. I mean, it's such a simple game. There's not much to it. This is like the opposite of Blueprints. There's not a lot of like detail and depth to this game. It's like, you're just in here to be a cool guy shooting enemies and trying to capture Satan,
The world needs both, man. All right? We got to fill both cups.
I just saw the screenshots of it, and the chin on Satan is really making me laugh. It's fantastic.
It's like Crimson Chin from Fairly Odd Parents or something. It's like sticks out, has like nice butt chin, the cleft in there. Yeah.
He's doing like the Giga Chad meme.
Oh
face.
Yeah, there we go.
It's very good. I saw the title Shotgun Cop Man, and I was like ignoring that without looking at any screenshots or something like that, and that was a mistake. This looks super cool. It looks like just watching like the trailer on Steam, it gives me like kind of like Celeste Super Meat Boy style, like kind of precision platformy vibes, but maybe not being as difficult as especially Super Meat Boy is.
Yeah, I'll say that the mechanic the main mechanic where you're trying to jump, it feels a little weird, because when you're playing a game, you're going to push the A button, you're going to jump like in any other game. But here, you have to flip your mind, kind of like when you're doing like flight controls and it's like inverted. It's kind of like that idea. But so I'm going to be shooting left to go right, and it just takes that little bit of like, it took me about 5 or 6 stages before I really felt like, okay, I got a grasp on the controls. But once you really get that going, and you get that how the momentum feels with the shotgun going up in the air, you can really do some pretty sick like movements and get some you'll beat the thing is, though, you'll beat the stage, and it'll be like, okay, you did all these achievements. I think it's usually 4. It's like, don't get hit, kill all the enemies, and then do it in a certain amount of time. And if you get all 3 of those, you basically get the 4th one, which is do the other 3. Sometimes you'll beat the stage, and it's like, I beat that stage in 52 seconds, but you can beat it in 47 seconds. All right, let's play that stage again and see if I can get that 5 seconds shaved off, And it's kind of one of those things, just a bonus objective. It makes it just that much more fun. But any questions for the game so far? Like, there's not a lot to say about this one.
Do you collect ammo, or does it just recharge every time you land on the ground? I can't tell from like the video I'm watching.
It's good comment there. It recharges every time you land on the ground. So it can be one of those things where there's moving platforms where you you have, I think it's 2 blasts with a shotgun before it like runs out. It might be 3. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it's 3. It's 3 shots with the shotgun before you run out of ammo. So if you run out of ammo, you're just going to fall into a pit or something like that. So it could be the thing where it's like, okay, I have to like time my jumps just right to hit this specific platform, recharge my ammo, and get going. And then, like I said, there's stages that kind of play with that expectation, like having the floating ammo, so that'll just keep recharging as you're going up.
Kind of reminds me of Downwell, the way you described that.
Yep.
Yeah, which
Very
is a
much
very
like that.
cool but extremely difficult game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I will say this has a lot of that energy just from the art style too. I would say like the nice, just stark, like it's just one color and it's a black background. And, you know, there's occasionally other colors like blood or something like that on the screen as you're shooting. The boss fights are cool. Like I say, like when you get to the end of one of the rings of hell, there are 8 different bosses. And of course you eventually fight Satan, spoiler warning, at the end, which I thought that was really well done. And all those really will kind of like play with the mechanics that you learned in that circle of hell. So say like I keep going back to this one because it's like one of the very first ones, but the ammo pickup one, there's that boss, and there's like a whole stage of those just kind of floating in the air, and then there's like a dude trying to like laser you from the side, so you're just trying to like keep yourself in the air as you're shooting this laser guy. And I think that all the levels are well designed, and it's like a 2 to 3 hour game. The music's pretty interesting, like not interesting. It's pretty good. It's like a house club style music. It's kind of pumping in your ear as you're going, kind of keeping you going. I wouldn't write home about it. It's not one I'm going to listen to outside of the game, but it suits the atmosphere and just trying to like blast everything in your path.
Just seems fun, man.
Yeah, it looks super
time.
cool.
Yeah, it's just a really good one of those, just like twin stick shooters. Yeah, so like if the aiming's with your left and right analog stick, I played some on PC as well with the mouse and keyboard, which works pretty good. You just use the mouse to aim around, but for me, I preferred using controller. I just felt like it just suited it really well, and it was just a lot of fun. It's just one of those that's really fun. Any comments or questions before I put it on the quest log? I literally have nothing else to say, or not much else to say about this one.
I listened to the episode of Trash Station where you and Scotch talked about this game, and he mentioned that he does not understand how anyone could use a controller to play it. And you were like, well, I used a controller and it felt fine. I was so confused by that because when you see screenshots, it's just like a platformer. So I don't know, but I suppose with somebody who plays a lot of mouse and keyboard games, probably it makes a lot more sense to use that for that. But to me, I would absolutely use a controller as well for this game. So
yeah, he mentioned that, and I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. It plays fine, but it really is just a twin stick shooter. It's kind of like that game called Neon Chrome, that roguelike game, I think, something like that. I can't think of the name of the game.
Neon Abyss.
Neon Abyss. That's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, that's the one. I was like Neon something. It plays very similar to that, of course, without a jump button. But it's a twin stick shooter on a 2D plane, and it plays really well. It's the sound effects are crunchy. It does what it needs to do. It's very much one of those that if you're into that style of game and you're into like precision platformers. Even if you're not really into them and you just want a really good, just 2 to 3 hour, you've been really grinding away on some blueprints. You're like, oh man, okay, I'm out of this puzzle zone. I just want to blast some fools in the face. This would be one to pick up and have a good time with. So,
awesome.
This one's a solid side quest game. I think that's pretty obvious from the way I'm like, yeah, I don't have a lot to say about it, but it's really good upper tier side quest for me. It's a one that, if you're in the mood and you have like a few hours, you're going to have such a good time with it. And you're going to get some laughs from just the absurdist comedy in it too. It has a really good, it doesn't take itself too seriously, which you need that sometimes.
Looks like a video game.
Yes.
And that is, we all need one of
much.
those from time to time.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So we brought 4 games to the show today. We got Spilled as a side quest, Rain World as a main quest, Blueprints as a main quest, and Shotgun Cop Man as a side quest. Nice, runs the gamut there of like different genres and styles there.
Yeah.
Yeah, good work, doctors.
Doctor.
All right. Well, that's going to bring us to our plugs. I'm going to throw it to Dave. Plug all the things you do online so people can find you and experience your awesome podcast.
Thank you. Just had to take a second to add Shotgun Cop Man to my wish list. Hi. I'm the host of Tales from the Backlog, which is a weekly gaming deep dive show. So every episode, again, is one game under the microscope. Most episodes are about 2 hours long, 2.5 hours. Had episodes that were much longer than that, just depending on how long we decide we want to talk about a particular game. So every episode, we'll go through kind of the story setup, overview of thematic content to be on the lookout for if you play it, but with no spoilers for a while. Again, we'll talk about gameplay mechanics, we'll talk about music, artwork, stuff like that. And then there is a dedicated spoilers section, so anyone who doesn't want to be spoiled can listen up until then and hop out. Every episode's me with a different guest also. I'm the only permanent person on the show. Steve's been a guest on the show before. We did the Void Stranger episode, which was a fun discussion about a very interesting game, without saying too much for anyone who might want to play it. But it's very interesting, asks a lot of you. And so we had a good chat after we went through that whole experience. And I've had tons of different guests on, from just people who are just my friends who don't do podcasts to gaming industry people, reporters, professional critics, and everything in between. So it's always a different kind of vibe, different episodes, because I always have different guests. And that's the show. It's on all the podcast apps. I also have a video version up on YouTube if you like to watch podcasts, or if YouTube is something that your workplace doesn't block, you can listen to the show on YouTube too. And I throw up gameplay clips and stuff like that on the YouTube version of the show. So yeah, that's Tales from the Backlog. And I have on the YouTube channel, I also do very infrequent, but sometimes I will do like more traditional YouTube videos as well. By the time you hear this, hopefully my video about the indies that I played at PAX East 2025 will be up on my YouTube channel. I should have, I think it's 17 indie games that I tried at PAX East, and I'll collect those and I'll talk about those and share the trailers and stuff with everyone. So that's something you could look forward to as well. So yeah, thank you all for the invite onto the show, and good conversation. I've been really looking forward to this, and I've had a great time.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, well, we'll do our rigmarole here. We can find the podcast on Blue Sky at IndieQuest Pod, or if you want to send us an email, it's IndieQuestPod@gmail.com. You can also text the show. If you go into the description there, you can click send us a text, and it's an anonymous text. We don't know who it comes from, and you can just shoot out whatever comment or question you have for us. And Steve, where can they find you on the internet?
Twitch and Blue Sky as Blinkoom. What about you, Seth?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Captain Drachma, and of course, in the Polymedia Discord, best place on the internet. And if you want to get into that Discord, head on over to Patreon, search up Polymedia, and jump into the tier that gets you into the Discord and come and talk to us. Josh, where can I find you on the internet?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Josh Leslie, two first names over here. You can go to... I'm trying to make that a thing. Two first names. Okay. Anyway, polymedianetwork.com to find more shows similar to this. If you like nostalgia, video games, movies, you're going to have a good time over there. Lots of great shows. Even if you're like nostalgic and you love Goosebumps, there's a podcast about that. Check it out, polymedianetwork.com. So Dave, why don't you send us out with a couple of parting words to the folks out there?
Ooh, I forgot you were going to do this. So here we go. Parting words. Well, we're on an independent show talking about independent video games, and independent media has been in the news recently as Giant Bomb has gone independent. Game Informer's not independent, but resurrected. We have a general call out there for people to support independent media. And I'm going to take that one step further, and I'm going to say, support some independent media that you've never consumed before. If you see someone writing on a personal blog or on a site, say you've never read something on Aftermath before or on one of those other sites or something like that, give them a read. See what people are doing out there. Get outside your comfort zone. If you see a podcast about something you're interested in and you've never heard of them before, it's probably because they're independent, and see what they have to say. So supporting independent media goes beyond just the biggest names in independent media. I'm very happy for Giant Bomb, and I wish them all the success. But they have an audience already. And I think that part of the call to support independent media is to help others grow as well. So that will be what I say. If you see someone out there that you've never seen before, give their work a try, and you might find your new favorite thing.
Great message.
Heck yeah.